Today, I'm going to be breaking down which NFC North team is under the most pressure heading into the season, and honestly, every team has a case. The Green Bay Packers are pushing for the Super Bowl. The Chicago Bears are building to win now. The Detroit Lions are on limited time before they could possibly disband. And the Vikings have internal pressure based on J.J. McCarthy in that QB room. Welcome, everybody, to the Gridiron Podcast. My name is Michael, and Nick is unfortunately not here. He is sleeping in this fine evening. Just kidding. He is out and about. Unfortunately, couldn't make it today, but he will be back next week, and we will have a great conversation as usual. But today, you are stuck with me, and I have a pretty good conversation here, which NFC North team has the most pressure coming into this season. So, starting off with the Chicago Bears, I think that this team, the window has absolutely started. I mean, last year, ever since Caleb Williams arrived, the hype around this team, is meant to win now. They get Montez Sweat, which was a big name before we saw the production of him these past couple of years. And they have Jalen Johnson in the backfield. And obviously they went out and were completely aggressive with getting Ben Johnson, getting Dennis Allen. And this team, their expectations are win now. Despite Caleb being going into his third year, the expectations are still the same. I mean, you have great potential in Rome Odunze. You have defensive players that are, can be downhill. I mean, at the time you had Tremaine Edmonds at linebacker. You have TJ Edwards. And you have Tyreek Stevenson when he's healthy. He can be a great cornerback. And at the time you had Jaquan Brisker. This team was meant to still win. And even now, in free agency, they added pieces, I think, that are possible upgrades. You get Kobe Bryant from the Seahawks. You get Devin Bush from the Browns in the linebacker position. And, you do have draft picks to play with. And, of course, you have the dynamic duo in the backfield of DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai, Kyle Monangai is just a great find for the Chicago Bears, 7th-round guy. I mean, he is just a great running back. And even if DeAndre Swift is off this team pretty soon, I think that running back room is still safe with Kyle Monangai. And, yeah, the Chicago Bears definitely have the most pressure, I think, in the NFC North as it stands. But the other teams do have some unique pressures that, are still just as much as the Chicago Bears. But despite that, Caleb Williams is still on his rookie contract. So this is like the window for the Chicago Bears to win it now. They need to win in the next, or be in the Super Bowl at least in the next, I'd say 2027, 2028 area, maybe even this year. It's possible. Not going to count them out ever. And you just signed Kobe Bryant to a 3-year deal. You're going to sign, I think Jalen Johnson just signed a mega deal as of recently. So you do have some guys under contract who are going to help you get there. So the Chicago Bears definitely need to win now. As for my Green Bay Packers, even though they're not built the same way as the Chicago Bears right now, they're actually in the same boat. And that is they need to kind of make it to the Super Bowl relatively soon, because that Micah Parsons trade, you invested a lot. You invested 2 first-round draft picks, and you signed Micah Parsons to a mega deal. Packers, even though they may not have the roster, which seems like could be Super Bowl caliber, they are competing for a Super Bowl. And they need to stop being in this loophole of being a wild card team. They're trying to break through. And right now, going into this year, the news came out over the weekend that Dontavian Wicks was traded. And this was seen coming because Dontavian Wicks, needed a new deal. and the Packers drafted him in the 5th round. They get a 5th and a 6th back, so, made some draft capital. He is a good receiver. I liked him. But the problem with the Packers at the time was Matt LaFleur did not know who he wanted to be on the field. At times, Dontavian Wicks took over against the Lions on Thanksgiving. We saw the potential he had in, his hands, catching abilities, route running. But over the years, drops have hindered him and unfortunately not allowed him to stay on the Packers as a solidified wide receiver. So going into this season, you really have yourself wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 and Christian Watson at 1, and then Jayden Reed at 2 and Golden at 3. So this could open the door for Matthew Golden to really step up and put up those numbers that people thought he would in his rookie year, which, that wide receiver room was so crowded. But, you get rid of Romeo Doubs. So you get rid of Dontavian Wicks. So that allows these receivers to really stand out, hold their position, and showcase what they have, whether they have it or not. And finally, even though all those guys were talented, like Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, there's finally a direction where the Packers are going in the wide receiver room, and I'm okay with it. I like Dontavian Wicks. I was a big advocate for him, although the drops were a pain, but I liked him. He was a good route runner. He was dependable when in games when you needed him, like the Lions game. But the Packers needed to choose a direction, and they did. And right now, Christian Watson's on a 1-year deal. Jayden Reed needs a new deal soon, and Matthew Golden's still on his rookie deal, of course. But these guys are coming up. They need contracts soon, so you kind of have to weed out who you want, who you don't. And with Micah Parsons and the investments that the Packers are putting in, you really need to go to the Super Bowl relatively soon, because Jordan Love's contract, I know he just signed a 4-year deal 2 years ago, but, those deals will come up sooner than you know it. And the Packers in this draft, honestly, I was thinking about it on the way here, they honestly have to hit on this draft at pick number 52 in the 2nd round, because this guy who they draft will be a possible rotation, if not a starter, depending on the position. If they draft a corner, he can immediately come in and make an impact because of how thin this cornerback room is. If it's a defensive line guy, we'll most likely see him in rotations because the Packers are so thin on defensive line right now. So Packers really have to hit on this draft pick, and the pressure's there on Goody. So you need a guy who can come in and make an immediate impact on the Green Bay Packers to push this team over the wild card round. I mean, if not, go deep in the playoffs and have full confidence that they can do it. The Detroit Lions are kind of on the other side of the spectrum of the Packers, and that is their team is fully under contracts. I believe a lot of them have 4-year deals going until 2027, 2028. And I mean, this is a new team because their offensive line is not the same. And they are kind of in a win now situation too, because sooner or later, you're going to have to make decisions on Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, I know he just signed that deal. You're gonna have to make decisions. Brian Branch, will eventually he get lost in free agency? Kirby Joseph. The Lions are gonna have to make decisions pretty soon, and this might be their best chance of winning now. We've seen the Detroit Lions with Matthew Stafford, that wide receiver group of Pettigrew and Calvin Johnson. I mean, it wasn't a good team by any means, but this could be their best roster since we don't even know. So this could be their best chance to win. And with Jared Goff, I mean, he's a competitive quarterback. Dan Campbell always put you in games, but this team definitely needs to, at this rate, I don't know if Super Bowl's the call, but maybe in the playoffs. You can't afford missing out on the playoffs anymore before you eventually just give up and go back to a full rebuild. But I don't think the Lions are in that position right now with Aiden Hutchinson and some of their other defensive players and offensive tackles like Penei Sewell. I think that this team can definitely still compete, and they are competing, but you're going to have to do it relatively soon by 2027, 2028. If by chance you miss the playoffs this year, you're going to have to do it. And the Detroit Lions, even though they missed the playoffs last year, they were still very competitive, and there was a lot of things that obviously went wrong with offensive coordinator, but I think they won't mess it up, and there's going to be a lot of eyes on them this year because right now the division for that second place spot between the Packers and Lions is kind of up in the air. So it's not fully 100%. As if for the Minnesota Vikings now, even though this team doesn't have the pressure to necessarily go to the playoffs or win the division, they have a new GM, and there's pressure on guys like Kevin O'Connell and J.J. McCarthy because Kevin O'Connell's been with the Vikings for a little bit now, and he's had a pretty good record, but as of recently, it's not been great. And there's been talks, I believe I saw rumors last season even, of Kevin O'Connell potentially being gone. It's just sooner or later that this team needs to figure it out with the quarterback position because ever since Kirk Cousins, they've really been all over the place. They've been kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out of they want to compete and win, but also they're not a team that's built to go to the Super Bowl necessarily. And they just need to completely pick a direction, which they did with J.J. McCarthy by selecting him. But now you're kind of seeing he's not that good. And you sign Kyler Murray to a 1-year deal. And J.J. McCarthy isn't the starter necessarily. So now you're kind of in a position where you're almost like the Raiders. You just need to flip a coin, have one of them start, see how they do, throw the other one in, see if they can do better. And guys like Brian Flores, I know he just signed an extension on that defensive side. It's just sooner or later, like you're going to lose a lot of guys like Byron Murphy in the backfield. You're going to lose key guys. I mean, Justin Jefferson's going to be eventually upset with the situation. It's just you're on limited time, but the Vikings don't have the time to really figure out who's their quarterback. They need to go out and be competitive because, as I said, Justin Jefferson's a franchise player. That's all they have. And if he goes, then what? Then what do they do? I mean, I guess they could trade him and get a haul back, but he could also walk in free agency. So that's the last thing the Vikings want. They do have a lot of pressure right now to figure out a direction of rebuilding or competing, which they're obviously rebuilding, but at the same time, they're not a complete walkover team. It's just they need a quarterback, and they need to get a quarterback for the future and pick a direction to go with that. So the Minnesota Vikings definitely need to pick a direction with where they're going as a franchise. And the NFC North as a whole has pressure to be one of the best divisions in the NFL. And these three teams, the Bears, Packers, and Lions, are all great competitive teams, and it is probably the best, if not one of top two divisions in football right now. None of these teams are walkover teams. They're all built to win now, if not go in the playoffs. And if I had to choose one team that has the most pressure going into this season, it would be the Chicago Bears, because they invested a lot in free agency. They signed quite a few players to fill some gaps on their team. They still need to address that edge position, which wouldn't be surprised if they do something in the draft. But them going out, getting Ben Johnson, moving from, oh my gosh, the former Bears coach, forgetting his name already, Eberflus. Moving from Eberflus to Ben Johnson was a serious move, serious culture move. That really says like they want to win, and they're not messing around. And the play designs from last year from Ben Johnson, the locker room speeches from Ben Johnson, it brings a lot of people have all the eyes on them because obviously the Chicago Bears' history not great. Jay Cutler, Mitch Trubisky, just franchise. This franchise has not had this culture since the '85 Bears or so. This team is supposed to be that team in the NFL right now, which is, scary, Super Bowl, on the track to win a Super Bowl here soon. And they're going to be aggressive. And they went out, they spent a lot of money, which rightfully so. They had a lot of cap space. But right now the pressure's on them because all eyes are on them. They need to win a Super Bowl relatively soon. It's possible for them to go any of these years coming up, even this season. I think that with the coaching staff they have, the players under contract they have, they're doing it right, and they give themselves a little bit of time, a little bit of leeway here to make the playoffs, if not more, this coming season. And we'll definitely see the Chicago Bears in the Super Bowl conversation for real, probably in 28. I think last season was quite a fluke of a season. Not saying that they didn't win their games or they shouldn't have won that many games, but some of those comebacks were insane. Obviously, my Green Bay Packers and the Los Angeles Rams even to tie it up at the end of the game there. The Chicago Bears, they're going to have to do it legit. They're going to have to blow teams out, the bad teams that they should. They're going to have to beat good teams, not by heroics, but, actually winning. But yeah, Chicago Bears, we'll see them in the Super Bowl relatively soon. And every team in the division has pressure, but not all the pressure is the same necessarily. I know that this one was a bit of a shorter one, but Nick and I will be back next week to talk about another topic of the NFC North, whether that's more draft content or maybe another topic for the next season. But if you disagree with my take on who has the most pressure, let me know down in the comments. And thank you for listening to the Gridiron Podcast. We will be back for another conversation next week.